Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Hey guys, I am super excited for today's show. I am interviewing Kate French. She is actually my neighbor. We met while walking our dogs. Inside scoop there. But the funny part is she is incredibly talented. Actually, there's nothing funny about that. She is a Renaissance woman. She does it all. She paints, she sculpts, she draws, she writes, she does hair and makeup, photography. And what we're mainly talking about today is her work with Lesage, which is a very famous embroidery and textile school in Paris run by Chanel. And we talk about fast fashion, what it's doing to the planet, and some of her inspirations here. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. So welcome to the show, Kate. I am very happy to finally have you on because we've been talking about this for what feels like years. I think it has actually been years since I've talked about having you on. Is that true?
Yeah, I think since we met mid-lockdown
2 years ago.
we were doing. We had nothing better to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's been like a black hole of time. Like, I have no concept of time at this point. I'm like, I started the podcast yesterday.
Yeah, so here I am. You finally got me.
Here you are. Well, I'm so happy to have you on because for me, you were like the ultimate like Renaissance woman. You do all the things. Like, she paints, she draws, she does photography, she does hair, she does makeup, she does embroidery. I mean, you are a creative if we've ever heard of one. Definitely your thing. So tell me a little bit about your Paris story. You're from England. I would say London, not really though. You're from all over England. London, Oxford, the two.
Yeah.
And I want you to just tell people like what brought you to Paris. Tell us a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah. So I am originally from London and then kind of lived between Oxford and London my whole life. And then I've always been an artist for as long as I can remember. In lieu of having friends, I would just sit in the corner and be that weird kid who was drawing, creating.
It sounds very familiar. This is why we bonded.
Yeah. And so I studied art and design, then did my degree in fashion design and tailoring, and then came to Paris to study at the Lesage embroidery school until COVID caused other things to
happen.
So I originally came to Paris on a 3-month trip to study couture embroidery, and I am still there 2.5 years later, and I love it. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some of your work. If people can check out your Instagram after this, we'll share all that in the show notes too. But talk a little bit about Lesage. Like, what is it? I think a lot of listeners are like, what is that?
So basically, it's like the upper echelons of the haute couture creative world. It's very, very detailed, amazing embroidery for custom fashion creations. So they work on things like Met Gala and all the they're actually owned by Chanel, so they do all the Chanel couture embroidery. So everything you see on the Chanel catwalks that's sparkly and beaded is usually Lesage. And they work with a lot of other houses. Like historically, they work with Schiaparelli, who's one of my favorite designers. It's very exciting to see them come back into life, and they're doing really well. And so it's basically a lot of it's kind of you work just by feel. because all the work is kind of upside down and it's stretched out on this giant frame. And
Wow.
yeah, so you're sewing individual sequins, beads, creating these mad designs, very, very detailed and very time consuming, and a real labor of love, but it's rewarding and it's beautiful, and it's something I've always dreamt of doing, and I've always been obsessed with these, the Galliano McQueen era of French couture, and these just extravagant, otherworldly designs, and I've always wanted to explore that passion and see what it's like for myself, see if I'm up to the task. So yeah, that's what led me to study it.
So you're telling me like yeah, and most of these dresses, like you said, you're working on these things blindly because they're like upside down. You're just sewing through fabric, and so you're telling me all these beautiful gowns we're seeing at like the Met Gala are made basically by blind people. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Well, so a lot of the work, basically, that you'd have to Google this, but um, basically, tambour embroidery is done. So you work on the reverse side, and so all you can see is basically your hook that you work with. It's like a hooked needle type contraption, and then you have
Mhm.
the beads and the sequins going underneath the fabric on the frame. So yeah, you can't see what you're doing a lot of the time, if it involves an.
Wow.
So it's really learning the feel, and it becomes a lot to do with muscle memory, and kind of, it becomes this very sort of meditative thing, which is also what I really love about it. You have to be very focused and very
Mhm.
present. Um,
How do your eyes and hands feel after?
that's the huge sacrifice. So your neck and shoulders, your hands and your eyes are, yeah. Everyone who works there wears glasses. So it tells you a lot, yeah.
Just to give you an idea. And so basically, like these designs cannot be made by machines. Like these beautiful embroidery, all the beading, like machines can't do that yet, right?
Yeah, so obviously you can get machine embroidery, but you can, uh, if you have any kind of knowledge of embroidery, you would see the difference immediately. Like,
Hmm.
the handwork is something very special. Yeah.
Yeah. And something very much from France. Like, is this like the original? Like, where did embroidery originate
I
from?
mean, obviously, most cultures all over the world have their own version of embroidery and of decorating um, clothing and textiles, but this particular method is very unique to the Paris kind of fashion houses, and
Hmm.
it's a kind of dying art. There aren't a lot of people, especially there aren't a lot of French people kind of going into that industry. So that was kind of my interest in it as well, because I've always been fascinated by um, traditional techniques and craftsmanship and kind of folk traditions. And this is sort of like
Hmm.
the high fashion version of that in a way. So
Yeah.
um, that's kind of what drew me to it as well. Um, this kind of idea of a more traditional dyeing art, and something very um, tangible and analog, and away from all the digital automated things that we have in our lives now. It's a return to something a bit more human.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you feel that we need to slow down to make art?
Absolutely. I think there's a huge disconnect now for a lot of creative people in general, but especially visual artists, and I would say musicians as well would probably relate to this, that I think with social media and with media in general, and the way that we have sped up everything, to such an extent, I think, and you'll know this, keeping a social media site going and engaging with your audience, it's something that has to be done daily. And now, the idea of creating a body of work that takes time and no one sees it for a year, or creating an album, it doesn't quite correlate with the way that we interact with each other now and the way that we consume new media. And I think
Hmm.
that's becoming a real issue, because it's we can't, as artists, I think it's really, really hard to step away from this whole world of, like, your social media needs updating, like, you've got to make new art to post
Hmm.
it, you've got to engage with new people, new audience, grow, 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 grow. And it's a very inorganic way of growing. um
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, for me, I find that it's not my natural way of working at all. um
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of artists, depending on the type of art, are kind of reclusive.
mhm.
So to go onto social media and put yourself out there constantly can be a little, I mean, it's a whole another job.
Exactly. I think that's a difficult thing. It's constant, like, emails and DMs and engagement, and how many likes am I getting? Like, the whole concept of someone liking your artwork. Like, can you imagine someone coming to your gallery show and, like, clicking a little button to see how much they like it? It's a very strange, new world,
Yeah.
this in that way.
And you'd also began a company where you design vegan clothes. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how does that work? What are vegan clothes made
Yeah.
out of?
So, yeah, I pre-pandemic, pre-Brexit, my main focus was, uh, I was starting a fashion company, which I still hope to kind of pick up when the world's calmed down, when we've not got crises to deal with every day. Um, but so it's all biodegradable luxury clothing. So that was part of my studies at Lesage, is to try and bring in um, embroidery and kind of embellishment into uh, totally sustainable, um, earth friendly clothing. So
Hmm.
essentially, the concept is that we're not compromising on creativity or um, on the finish of the clothing,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
when its life is done, it won't end up being toxic to the earth. What the the,
Hmm.
the concept is that they're long term clothes, heirlooms. You would pass them down, but when their life is inevitably over, it's not going to have this terrible impact on the planet that we're seeing with, obviously, the consumption of fashion at the moment, which is one of the biggest problems we face in terms of not only environmental issues, but also in human exploitation. Human rights issues relating to the fashion industry is a huge problem. And after I'd finished my degree, I was so apathetic towards having a career in fashion because of the current ways of working. And
Hmm.
so yeah, starting my own little project was my reaction to that, and just to explore possibilities and work with people who are really innovative. And there are some incredible, incredible innovations going on now within the textile production, and that's really exciting. You have these mad things like
Yeah.
mushroom leathers and
I mean, mushroom leather.
yeah.
Yeah, and cactus. There's a lot of like
Yeah.
cactus involved, right?
Yeah, and like leathers made from, like, byproduct from the wine industry, like from the grape pulp, and just this idea of really looking at how we can reuse byproduct and create um really
Clothing.
exciting new textiles for clothing there. And yeah, so I love all of that. I love innovation. I love experimentation, especially when it's not detrimental to the planet. Like that's really my
Mhm.
passion, is looking at and working with people who are doing something, trying to live a bit more consciously and gently and being creative in the process.
Yeah. I like that, living more gently.
Hmm.
So the main issue, like, there's a lot of talk about fast fashion and things like that. So that would be like the H&M and the Zaras and, all these little brands that, it turns over very quickly. There's new stuff on the racks all the time. So what is the issue with this? Like, it falls apart too quickly. The clothing's made of plastic. Like, what is this stuff made of? Why is it so bad for the environment?
Well, it's kind of at every, we could do a whole series on this. We could do a new podcast series. Um, to give a top level, basically, so first of all, the way it's produced is very, very bad. The conditions in which it's produced, the people who are producing it are not looked after. We've seen like horrible events like Rana Plaza, which was
Hmm.
a factory which very, very sadly collapsed and killed a lot of workers, people who were working there in the process. There are
Hmm.
horrifying um, practices. People aren't paid properly, obviously. They're often locked in or even sometimes chained
Yeah.
to their workspace. Um, and essentially, there's no mobility for people. They're
Wow.
kept in situations where they're not they're not being taught skills where they're going to be able to progress in their career, or they're going to be in a situation where they're sewing buttonholes forever, which I think is a big problem in itself. But then,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and not being paid accordingly, and this is how we're affording to produce in the West, how we're affording to produce very, very cheap clothing. The other issues are that obviously,
Hmm. So that's why things are cheap in these stores.
absolutely, because it's the profit margins for brands like H&M and the Zara group are incredible. I mean, and there's no, this whole idea of conscious
Hmm.
collections and things. It's pure marketing, and there's no real thought. Like it's a total false economy. But anyway, I could spend
Hmm.
10 years
Hmm.
talking about this. But, the fabrics that are being used, unfortunately, they're plastic, so they're coming from fossil fuels. Then they're traveling throughout, you know, 6 different countries across several
Hmm.
continents. Just to produce one t-shirt, it might, the cotton will come from somewhere. It's going to be, you know, pesticide-ridden cotton,
Hmm.
which is affecting that environment. Then it's being bleached, which is terrible for the
Hmm.
environment. Then it's traveling somewhere else to be produced in these awful conditions. Then it's coming to the West, and it's so not only is it the production of the textile itself, it's the way in which it's made, and then the transport. And
Hmm.
then, it's made from such terrible quality, designed to kind of fall apart and designed to be disposable, because obviously we're, as we were talking about earlier, with the speed of our consumption now, trends come in and out so quickly, and we look for newness every single day. We're looking at what is the new
Hmm.
trend, what makes us look cool, and then so people might never wear this t-shirt that's someone's been kept in terrible conditions to produce. This t-shirt might never get made. Then it's being shipped
Hmm.
out to a country where, in the West, we don't see what happens to our clothes when we discard them, and the reality is they end up in horrific uh landfill sites, where then
Hmm.
it pollutes the earth. It creates a horrible economical situation for the people who live in those areas. And it may never biodegrade, but it might start to 400 years later. And unfortunately, the amount that we're currently consuming it's really accelerating the climate crisis, and it's causing
Yeah.
global, and it's using up fossil fuels at such a mad rate. And thanks for coming to my TED talk.
So it's bad on multiple levels. It's
Yeah,
probably not so great for our bodies too. God
of
knows what we're absorbing for all
course.
these like
Yeah, we're
weird
absorbing it's
chemicals.
the microplastics, being created from this, and God knows what it's doing to our skin and our water supply and everything else.
So what can we do on a like micro level? Obviously, this is a huge problem that has a lot more to do with everything that you just talked about. But as a consumer, like what are some steps we could take to stop this?
So yeah, I mean, this is the really sad thing as well. I think that governments aren't doing more, and corporations aren't actually caring, because I think it's always very sad when the consumer is left to be the one to be educated enough and conscientious enough to make these choices. When I understand that, you know, the majority of people don't have the luxury of buying madly expensive clothing, especially with
Hmm.
the cost of living as it is. So this is a major issue. Is making things affordable and um, and good for the planet. And unfortunately, that means that corporations would have to cut their profit margins, which currently I don't I don't see that happening. Um, so as a consumer, I mean, I've made the choice to only buy secondhand clothing, because there is such a huge amount, and it's fun as well, because you never know kind of what you're going to get, and you end up looking a bit crazy sometimes, but that's fine. Your style kind of evolves to reflect the fact
Yeah.
that you're buying kind of pieces that you would never see again, or you can
Hmm.
easily replace. And there's something really nice about that, because it kind of develops a mentality of like clothes become a lot more precious, because you know that you really have to look after them if you find a piece that you love. Um,
Hmm.
and then again, kind of, learning embroidery and learning to sew, um, in an effort to kind of repair clothes and alter things that don't look
Hmm.
quite right or are a bit out of fashion, or so on and so forth. That's a really fun thing, and it's becoming, more popular, which is amazing to see. So people, upcycling their clothing and just recutting it is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's an amazing Instagram I would urge you all to follow, called Converted Closet, and it's this lady. She used to work in, I think, as a lawyer or in finance. Don't quote me on that, but she now has this Instagram where she takes clothes that look a bit, you know, 80s basically, and and updates them, and shows people how to convert them, and it's amazing. And that's a really good like place for inspiration if you're kind of stuck on what to do with a piece
Hmm.
that you have. Um, and I think generally just being a bit more conscious about the fabrics that we're buying, where we're spending our money, and who we're supporting. I'd say supporting small businesses is a great place to start, and really like
Hmm.
just looking into, yeah, but people again who are doing innovative things and doing creative things, and who aren't owned by some massive corporation. uh
Yeah.
Voting with our
I think
money.
in France it's a little easier to find some of those smaller boutiques. I know in America we struggle a lot because everything's a Target or a Zara or an H&M.
Exactly.
So you have to work a little harder.
And
But like you said, you buy things on eBay and things
yeah.
like that as well.
And I think also, now obviously this whole thing of like vintage or like thrifting has become such a huge thing, that obviously understandably places like, Goodwill and so on are upping their prices, which is again not good, because there are people who don't have the luxury of choice, and we have to remember that. And
Hmm.
hopefully move towards a world where we are considering all of these things and not pricing people out constantly where there's profit to be
Mm-hmm.
made, just saying like, okay, we don't need to make as much money as we can possibly make out of this. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Yeah, we can think about the greater good. Stop being
exactly.
greedy, people.
Yeah,
Hi, Zara.
yeah.
Yeah, no, those are all very valid points. And I think we all should just, I'm imagining us all becoming a little more Amish, you know? We're like making our own clothes, we're keeping stuff. The Amish got it going on.
Hey,
I don't think you have
I have a
Amish
secret.
here, do you?
It's not that secret. It's just that no one wants to listen about it. But I have an obsession with Amish quilt making. The Amish quilt making is some of the most incredible work ever. I have like several books that I found in random charity shops about it. Again, guys, look into it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are works of art, truly.
You have to hang out with my mom because I grew up on the border of Pennsylvania, so the Amish were right there, and we used to always go buy their quilts. And my mom bought like
Oh,
1,000 quilts from them, and it's all this patchwork. They were like all over our house all the time. So you guys can talk about
yeah,
quilting when you finally meet. I think it'll be
well,
very
yeah,
exciting.
you'll be like plugging your ears with cotton wool. With,
Amish quilting, love it, guys. Kate is in her 20s. I
yeah,
love this.
yeah,
Love it. And talk a little bit about how you define creativity. I ask everybody on the show about this, and I find the answers vary a lot. Like, how would you define a creative, or what is creativity to you?
Well, I think creativity is a really funny word because I think a lot of people, associate it with the arts. And to me, it's absolutely not that. I think people can be creative and obviously are creative in every field. Um, and so I think that's important to remember, especially for people who are a little bit apprehensive or they have anxieties around picking up a pencil or a paintbrush and kind of just going for it. And I think if you want to connect with your creativity in the visual sense or in musical sense or whatever, acting, dance, in the more, what I would say is expressive creativity, I think it's just important to remember that we all have to be creative in our daily lives, and we all have it within us, even if you don't consider yourself to be a creative person. We have to be creative in the way that we, drive a car or like, interact with a new person or deal with a new problem at work or, so I think it's about utilizing those skills and saying, oh yeah, actually I can be creative and I am creative in my own way, and so I can be creative visually and just not being scared. I think just doing things as if no one's ever going to see them and you're not going to have to answer to anyone about your creativity. I think that's the way to kind of tap into it, and that's how I would define it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great definition because I think a lot of people get nervous about doing something creative because they think, oh, I'm going to be judged. And in a way, it's like sharing a piece of our inner soul, sharing something really like hidden, maybe. So people don't want to be laughed at but at the end of the day, like creativity is a lot about problem solving. Like you said, it doesn't have to be just like making like a painting or anything like that.
Totally. And I think, uh, like for instance, off the top of my head, like project management, that can be an incredibly creative job. Or, mathematicians
Mm-hmm.
that create, because it's if you have the ability to think outside the box, like you are a creative person. And I think that's a lot of people sort of box themselves in and don't see themselves as artists or having the ability to create art. And I would say that actually it can be so wonderful and so therapeutic for people who don't identify with being visually creative people. It can be the most
Mm-hmm.
fantastic kind of addition when you do tap into that. And I think
Yeah, definitely.
it's like being a human, throughout history, we've been whittling things and drawing on caves, cave walls,
Exactly. Quilting.
quilting.
Gotta be quilting. And what's the best advice you've ever been given?
That's a tough one. I was thinking about this a lot in the questions. The thing that came to mind was actually when I was a lot younger, I just started at art college, UK college, so I was about 14. I read Andy Warhol's autobiography, which is The Philosophy of Andy Warhol, A to B and Back Again. And
Mhm.
this is something that always sticks in my head whenever I'm in a rut or whenever I'm giving, if my friends like kind of ask me for advice, is Warhol kind of developed this mentality where when he started spiraling about stuff, he'd basically just go, "So what?" And it answers so many uh questions, and it solves so many problems as a creative when you're getting a little bit too self-indulgent or a little bit too into your ego about like the outcome of something, just to step back and go, so what? And I think that it's actually an incredible piece of advice. Just don't, it's like, take yourself seriously in the sense of like, putting the effort in and keeping that sense of education and exploration and to continue evolving and growing as an artist, but don't take yourself so seriously in the idea that everything has to be perfect or sellable or that everyone's going to love it. I think that's the biggest hurdle that we face, is the idea that we have to be liked or that everything has to be successful. I mean, like if you ever go to any artist museum, where they have like the full back catalogue of their work, you're going to a retrospective, a lot of that stuff isn't great, and I think we have to remember that, that it's important to learn from the unsuccessful works or the less successful works as it is, as from looking at masterpieces. I went
Mhm,
to the Raphael exhibition yesterday at the National, and it's amazing, but there the great thing they have is they have a lot of the preliminary sketches um, next to the finished kind of insane masterworks that Raphael was producing way back. And
his works kinda glow, they're so beautiful. I remember
they,
when they were on at the Louvre.
yeah, I mean, unbelievable. And I went with my dad, who's a lighting director, and he was like losing his mind for this incredible use of lighting. And but yeah, they had the sketches next to them, and you see, like, okay, even Raphael, like, not everything he did was like insane. I mean, they're
Perfect.
still beautiful, obviously, but just seeing the inner workings, I think it's a great reminder. Like, that's my other piece of advice: go to exhibitions, watch documentaries, listen to people's podcasts, like hear about the failures, and don't get too hung up on when you don't feel that you're successful, because
Mhm.
if you feel like you're successful at everything you do, it's a problem. you know
Yeah,
might need to
yeah, that's kind of
might need to
it.
reflect on
And also,
that.
like, we need to, like, redefine success, I think,
Yeah,
because a lot of times success is measured by how much money you make or how many people like you, and I think that we can define success in other ways, and it would be a lot more healthy for everybody.
totally. I mean, my my relationship with that is I
Yeah, and that was really eye-opening for me because someone is a workaholic. All I've ever done is, like, worked my ass off all the time,
mm,
and then to hear you say, like, whatever, if I make some money, maybe not, whatever, I'm
yeah,
enjoying my life. I'm like, "What?"
yeah,
I was like such an athlete. Like, "What? You can do that? You can just be? You don't have to think about constantly getting to a higher level, a higher
yeah.
salary, a higher
Because
whatever."
and I
Like, that
think,
was just like, I don't know why it's such a
yeah, but I think that's all very well and easy, easy and well to say when you have stability or privilege, or you live in a country that offers security,
support.
of course. But I
Yeah.
think it's what I mean with that is it's a balance, and a lot of I've been in situations where I've been around more money, I've been around less money, but ultimately I don't think you can measure success real success by financial stability or financial gain, because a lot of the wealthiest people I know are the most miserable.
Yeah, more money, more problems.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just about getting to a place where you feel like you have purpose. I think that's what success is about. It's fulfilling purpose and finding purpose and all of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I agree. I think this is like life-changing podcast, Kate. Let's start our own series about fast fashion and how to be. Um, Sadly, we only have 30 minutes today, but can you tell people where to connect with you, how to follow your work? What are you working on now? What do you want people to know about?
So I'm on Instagram. You can find me there. I can't guarantee how often I update it. It's still a work in progress, me being comfortable with sharing my work online, because I'm a natural hermit of a person. But you can find me at kgs.french.works. It will be in the show notes, I'm sure.
For sure.
If you can't understand my British accent. And yeah, what am I working on now? I am working on a very exciting secret project with a good friend of mine. It's a documentary of sorts, and we're hoping it's going to be our first feature length. And so I'm doing the art direction for that, and the majority of the camera work. So that's super exciting, and I'm really loving that whole experience. And I'm also working on sort of developing my work as a textile artist and bringing that into my fine art, which is something I started doing during lockdown that I'm being incredibly shy about sharing. But hopefully there's inklings of that ending up in some sort of gallery show. So maybe within the next year I might pop up at a gallery in Paris.
I can't wait to see it. Yeah. I can't wait to see the feature-length film. I know what it's about, and it's super exciting, guys. So you definitely need to follow Kate, especially if you're a Francophile, especially if you love Paris. She's doing a lot of amazing things here, and you need to follow her. So definitely check out the show notes. We'll put everything there, and chat with Kate online when she's not being a hermit woman. And thanks so much for coming on the show, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I didn't make everyone super depressed with my talk of the fashion industry.
Everybody burn your Zara.
Don't no. Keep your Zara.
Bad for the air quality. Bury it somewhere with the nuclear waste. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.